US crime figures show sextortion cases more than doubled last year, rising to 26,700. In the US alone, at least 27 boys killed themselves in the last 2 years. Jordan was targeted by a sextortion gang. They messaged him on Instagram, pretending to be a girl his age, and coaxed him into sending explicit images. They then blackmailed him, demanding money in exchange for not sharing the pictures. Jordan sent some, but it wasn't enough.
Sextortion involves the coercion of children victims into sending sexualised images and payments to offenders online through the offender pretending to be another young person.
They sent James 200 messages in 19 and a half hours. These people are professional con artists. Every day I told my son I loved him. And in 19 and a half hours, they convinced him otherwise.
Sextortion is becoming such a prevalent scam, and the implications are incredibly serious, from people losing money all the way to losing their lives in some situations. It's a topic that not many people will talk about, as it is quite taboo in today's culture to have something of this nature and have to openly talk about it. And what I fear is that's creating a society where this scam is going to become more and more effective as more and more people get hit, and if it remains a taboo topic, the victims of it don't want to talk about it openly. They don't want to approach any member of their family or any sort of friends out of fear of being embarrassed or prosecuted by their friends in some capacity. There's a lot of victim blaming, like, oh, why would you do that? That was such a silly thing to do. But in the reality, this could happen to absolutely anyone. I guess this also feeds into why we're talking about it and why it's such an important subject, is how these scammers work. They're the lowest of the low. Their demographic that they're targeting is not your average adult. It's children, it's teenagers, it's the younger population. They're maybe not looking out for these sort of attacks and scams and are more likely to fall victim to it. I'm seeing a spike in what I essentially call fake sextortion scams. So that's where you'll get an individual, you get an email from an individual who's basically claiming to have access to your device or put a malware in there. Or they'll throw other buzzwords out there like keylogger or remote desktop protocol or something like that, just try and scare you. And sometimes it'll vary from, for example, phone numbers you might receive. They might be like, hi, last name or first name, I know I can contact you on this number, but instead I'm going to send this to your email. I've got explicit videos of you because of XYZ. We've got a keylogger on your device, and we're going to expose that publicly unless you pay us money. Now, why I call this a fake sextortion scam, even though it is definitely a sextortion scam, is because there's no actual, they haven't actually got those compromising pictures of you. They're trying to use the fear in the moment to make you make a decision to pay that money to them out of fear that you might actually expose it or you might have that material. Now, they're very, very careful with how they kind of do their phrasing, especially when it comes to, you know, say you're worried and you're like, oh no, what should I do? I'm going to ask them for proof. Which one, if you get one of these emails, definitely don't try and contact or correspond with the email itself. Just leave it, talk to someone. But in the situation where you're someone and you've reached out and be like, show us proof, they'll try and stop you and deter you from even doing that by actually putting a clause at the bottom of the email, something along the lines of, if you want us to show you proof, we'll send it to 11 of your contacts and expose it to them, and then you'll know we have it for real. Right. And so they're trying to even stop you from getting to the point where you ask for proof. So one of the things in relation to these fake sextortion scams is, if you see that there's a body of text and it seems very, you know, they're saying all these buzzwords and stuff, if you actually look up sextortion scam, or if you look up sometimes even that, just what they've said in that email, a lot of the times it'll actually come up on Google because it's just a copy and paste of another one that someone else has received. And it's the exact same threat, absolutely empty threat. As a result, you'll see comments being like, please delete this, this is not real, which 99% of the time it isn't real. They haven't got any evidence. So one of the reasons you might get one of these fake sextortion emails is it's actually the result of all the data breaches you might see in the news, right? And the emails you might get from companies being like, oh, by the way, just so you know, your phone number, your email address, your name, your date of birth all got breached in our breach, our bad. That's where threat actors are getting the data from. So they found it in some sort of methodology, whether that's even just looking at your social media account or some other account you signed up online, and they see that, you know, your name and your phone number's there. They're going to try to use that to their advantage and try and get some money off you. So that's how that data that get leaked from when companies get hacked that you signed up to. This is some of the blowback of that. You've got AI generated images. So we've seen instances of AI being used to perform deepfakes and deepfake people's faces onto pornographic videos and share that. And as part of the threat, they've now supplied another level of fear to it, which is a video, which appears to show you partaking in something that you didn't do, and claiming they're going to expose this to XYZ people unless you paid the money. And then the final kind of form of this being the sextortion scams, where you yourself have sent a compromising image because you believed you were talking to someone that, you know, you were in a relationship with or just talking with, or for whatever reason, you've shared that image with them under the guise that was someone else. And that's resulted in them instantly coming back and blackmailing you and trying to extort you for money. One of the differences between these, we'll call them fake sextortion scams, and the ones where they actually have compromising pictures is the platform that they reach you on. So typically what you'll see in the fake one is you'll get an email that's super generic in a way, has a few details about you, but nothing serious, and with a kind of a threat. In the more, I won't say dangerous, but the more prevalent ones in terms of a real sextortion case, these people will be across things such as Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, and they'll try and attempt to build up a relationship with you over time. Now, this could look like a couple of days or a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but their end goal is to lead up to that event. Yeah, so a lot of these threat actors or scammers will start off in potentially like chat rooms or something like a dating app, and then try and move the conversation off those mediums to something more like Instagram or Facebook. And the reason they do that is those chat rooms and the dating apps, they try and keep some level of separation from, you know, a real account. Whereas as soon as you be like, or as soon as they say, go check out my Instagram, and you go there and you see that they have followers, they have friends, they have all these pictures, they have like 30, 40 posts on their name, they're getting likes, comments, they appear to have, you know, a substantial amount of followers, the account appears to be like, you know, dating back like multiple years. There becomes a reality that is built by that. And the reason that these accounts exist and they appear to be real is a lot of times they're bought. So potentially they could be, for example, a real account but owned by a real person, potentially even that person at some point, that was compromised and then the credentials being sold, or potentially they're a botted account. So the threat actors have actually gone and botted and basically given themselves followers and give themselves interaction with the post whenever they post, to bring back the reality that this is a real person, this is a real account, and that individual that you're seeing there is the person that you are talking with, not the scammer. And so from there, then they can start to build up more trust. And that's what they're trying to do. The first stage of a sextortion scam, where they try and get real compromising images of you, is essentially grooming. It's the process of building up trust with the individual, so much so that they'll get to the point where they're willing to share those kind of images. So another thing that happens when you go follow them and you follow back or anything of that nature is it gives them the ability to see your followers and following. And therefore from there, they can create kind of a list of individuals that they think you are close with. They can see your posts, they can see who you're, you know, if you have a private account, for example, that's not public, they can see people you've tagged in images. So they can see, okay, who's his family, who's his friends, and build up their kind of action plan, I guess, as to how they're going to extort you and who they're going to blackmail you against. Because it's one thing, I guess, when they say we'll release it publicly, such as in the fake ones. It's another thing when they say we're going to target your friends and family. When it comes to something like a chat room, for whatever reason you're in there, stay in the chat room. Don't create this connection to yourself necessarily. And when it comes to something like dating apps, just be vigilant and aware that this is something that can occur, right? Don't just take every situation as, okay, this is a legitimate person. Video calls are somewhat, they can be spoofed, and there have been instances where these individuals, these scammers, actually involve the people that you see in those accounts. They use like essentially models, and then they'll hire those models to come do a video call with you, to the point where you are like, okay, well, yeah, this person's 100% legit. I called them, I spoke to them on the phone. You know, they can't come meet me in person because they live over, you know, overseas or something like that. But this is very real that they can do this. So just have that level of caution in your mind when you're using platforms such as dating apps or chat rooms, that when you move from one site to another, you're exposing yourself to a certain level of risk. And from a very, like, I guess, from the perspective of a person who deals with incidents, you should never, if you're going to be sharing any sort of these pictures, you should never include your face in these pictures. It's one thing if they just have a picture of your private parts. It's another thing if they have that in your face. What do these accounts actually look like?
Yeah.
Like when, you know,
Red flags.
The kind of red flags you look for in an account, a lot of them might even have adult content on the Instagram page or the Facebook site or page profile themselves. That's one big red flag. Another will be as soon as you accept it, they reach out to be like, hey, try start a conversation straight off the bat and quickly try and put it into that, escalate it into that situation where it's no longer just a friendly conversation between friends. It's absurd, right? Where you'll come across an account that's followed you and it has that kind of adult content on it, and you're just like, why is this happening? But the reason is that they're targeting a demographic that's looking for that content because they're at that age where they're looking for that content. And so that's who their demographic they're targeting is. And so that's why those accounts exist and why they try to follow you. I think that's really important to be aware of that, and, you know, be aware of what the implications of allowing accounts like that to follow you are. This is all talking about the situation, you know, a potential situation that occurs. But you might be watching this video as a result of it having occurred, and you're currently in this situation where you haven't told anyone, you've just received this sextortion email message, and you are stuck and feeling extremely alone right now. One of the first things you should do is go talk to someone you trust, whether that's a family member or a close friend or a teacher or just anyone who you believe you can trust with this information, that they wouldn't hold it against you. Speak to them, get their opinion on the situation, because they'll likely be able to point you into some resources. And as soon as you tell someone else, right, that trusted individual, they're going to be able to bring, you know, a sense of, okay, let's just relax. Let's just look at the situation for a second. Let's look online for help, what help is available. And there you'll be able to find some very great resources at your disposal. And that can lead into things such as some sites are out there, and we'll put them in the description below, that involve basically stopping the video from being able to go up on social media sites by essentially the video's unique identifier, or picture's unique identifier there, its hash. And so there's services that are out there like that. There's also services that can help for a range of different scenarios, and you've just got to look them up. But taking that first step of reaching out to someone and just getting that second pair of eyes on the situation can just drastically help you just think the situation through and not make the decision to pay the ransom. Now, with this ransom, these scammers are the lowest of the low. If you pay them the money, like, they're not going to get rid of the video. They will continue to just demand more and more and more. And we've seen this hundreds of times before, that's the outcome. You pay the money and they will just be like, okay, pay us another 500 now. And it will just keep on going. It won't stop. Don't pay any ransom, right? Don't pay the money. a lot of the times once the threat actors realize they're not going to get any money from you, reality is they're probably going to lose interest. They're realizing they're not getting any money from this because that's their whole motivation. They don't care about anything other than getting that money. So the second they realize that you're not going to be giving them anything, they're just going to lose interest. We've also been made aware of situations and assisted in situations where this has actually affected organizations. For example, someone would start an organization, and upon starting, they receive a video of a compromising video of them, and it being AI or in whatever nature. And as a result, they've basically gone to that individual, to their work email, hey, we're going to send it out to these people in your company. Now, from an organization's perspective, you've got to try and assist this individual as much as you can, right? This is not their problem. This is now a company problem. And you've got to be there to support them. A hypothetical situation, I haven't come across a circumstance like this, but imagine an employee of yours receives an email of that nature, and it's, by a threat actor who's maybe not necessarily goal is money driven, or maybe it is, but they want a lot more than the $10,000 that individual could pay them or something like that. And so they almost shift the conversation from, hey, we want you to pay us $10,000 to, hey, if you don't go and click on this link and, put your credentials into here and don't tell anyone you basically access this phishing email, then you're almost leaving yourself exposed to them potentially being able to be blackmailed into a situation where they expose the company as a result of saving themselves. Sextortion is something that has been coming in and out of the media for years now. And I think it's something that especially parents, teachers, co-workers, managers, anyone who has a level of seniority in their company or just a level of authority should be very aware of these situations. And although in some situations it's extremely taboo, this situation, they need to be discussed. They're difficult conversations to have. Be aware that this is a situation that can occur, is very real and possible threat, and make sure you're taking the time to understand and know what to do in the situation that someone comes to you asking for help. Just realize you're not alone in that situation, and that this is a very common scam that happens, and there are people that have dealt with it and are still going about their lives today.